Dozens of former Republican and Democratic officials are forming a new national political third party to appeal to millions of voters they say are fed up with America's two-party system. The new party is called Forward, and it will be co-chaired by former Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang and former Republican governor of New Jersey, Christine Todd Whitman.
John Mark Hansen is the author of Mobilization, Participation, and Democracy in America and distinguished professor of political science at the University of Chicago. He joins us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I think some of our viewers will remember what I think maybe the last really strong third-party candidate in Ross Perot. Does that have something to do with why a third party hasn't taken off after that with such impact?
Well, Ross Perot was just the latest casualty in a long line of third-party casualties. There have been third-party candidates really back to the beginning of the party system in 1832, and none of them have ever gotten much traction.
What is the problem? Other countries do this successfully. They form coalitions. What is the problem? What are they doing wrong here?
Well, the main reason why we have a two-party system is because we have first past the post elections. So whoever gets the most votes wins. And given that there can only be one person elected to each office, that means that there are strong strategic reasons for wanting to make sure that your vote counts. And the way that you make sure that your vote counts is to go for someone who can actually win. And that tends to be the two parties.
Right, but I mean, in other countries, when they work with each other and they form these coalitions, so how is the same problem not happening in other countries?
Well, most other countries are parliamentary systems where they elect legislatures and the legislatures elect executives, and they use proportional representation. And so parties are represented in proportion of the vote that they get rather than having to win a majority of the vote to win office.
And does gerrymandering play a factor in this, where the two-party system, one or the other, this is something that both parties do across the country, they sort of secure power for themselves, it seems?
That's true, but we've had long periods of single-party dominance in many parts of the country. The Solid South is the most important example of that, from the period after the Civil War up until the 1960s. The Democratic Party was dominant in the South, and likewise the Republican Party was dominant in many parts of the North. And that was something that certainly led to some party factionalism, particularly the rise of progressivism as a movement. But the party dominance isn't anything new in the U.S.
Do you think this effort by Andrew Yang and Christine Todd Whitman has a chance of survival? There seem to be a lot of disenfranchised voters with both parties right now.
Well, there are certainly a lot of people who are completely fed up with the parties, and there are polls that indicate that a large number of people would like to see a third party, but it's not clear exactly what that means. It could well mean that Democrats would like to see a third party to pull the Republicans back toward the middle, or that Republicans would like to see a third party to pull the Democrats back to the middle, or that there are people who would like to see a third party that's even more extreme than the current two parties. So it's a little hard to tell exactly what's going on there. I don't anticipate that they have a great deal of, I don't think that they have a very good chance this year.
All right, Professor Hansen, we appreciate you joining us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.